Morning everyone. What we're looking at today in this lecture is measurement in sports psychology. We're looking at the concept of using self-report scales, and the question is, how can we measure what we cannot see? So why is measurement important? Well, if we wanted to lose weight, we'd need a set of scales to test and retest our body weight, and we want those scales to be valid and reliable. Now, what do we mean by valid? Well, valid means that they've got to be an accurate, provide accurate figures for how much you weigh, and we can test that by getting some standard weights, take maybe from the gym, put them on the scales and see what the score is, and it should be the same as what the weight is. So in other words, the scales are a valid representation of weight. We can test reliability because the scores should be equal each time. If we put 10 kilos on there one moment, we put 10 kilos on there 10 minutes later, that should be the same score. If we lost weight, or we thought we'd lost weight, been on a diet and our scales were not valid or reliable, the scores we got out may or may not be able to give us an accurate representation. Hence, validity is pretty important. So measuring psychological concepts is not so straightforward. With a set of scales, we can see the dial moving forwards, but we can't really see what's going on in someone's head. So what we try to do is get them to tell us how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and this creates a whole degree of error. So let's look at an example of, say, self-confidence. There's lots of research support for the notion that self-confidence influences performance, so the idea that high self-confidence is a predictor of performance. So if we could assess someone's self-confidence, we found that low at the start, and we found this was a valid and accurate assessment of their self-confidence, then if we conducted an intervention to improve that, we'd also hope that performance improves. So we could test the idea that improvements in confidence is associated with improvements in performance. So self-confidence is a quality that varies between individuals. If we had a valid and reliable way of assessing self-confidence, that'd be really useful for a practitioner, because then we could start doing interventions to try and change it to improve performance. So let's look at how we can develop that sort of valid and reliable measure. So self-confidence is a quality that varies between individuals. If we had a valid and reliable way of assessing self-confidence, that'd be really useful for a practitioner, because then we could start doing interventions to try and change it to improve performance. So let's look at how we can develop that sort of valid and reliable measure. So, take-home message from today, and by the end is we're going to be a much better understanding of the self-report process. We are going to understand that measures are estimates and not, and because they're estimates, they can't be guaranteed to be the precise measure of the concept you're interested in. You're going to be using an online tool so you can assess your own mood states, and you'll just see how that works. So you get a really in-depth understanding of using that tool. You're going to be aware of the validation process, which is lengthy and sometimes seems awfully repetitive, and but that's what's gone on for most questionnaires. And then there's a worksheet with a whole lot of scores we collected from people, and you're going to look at how you're going to analyse that, and that's going to be really quite useful, because those type of skills are going to be needed not only in this module, but they transfer to a whole number of other modules, so including your dissertation. So it's pretty good stuff going on today. So we're on the In the Mood website. This is the introductory statement, which covers all the ethical issues. So it'll talk through about what's involved, how long it takes to complete, whether it's been approved by an institutional ethics board, and it passes all of those. And then you have to tick that you agree to take part. So we look for the I agree bar, and we are going to tick. I've given my consent to start right now, and so we go, yep, we are ready to start the test. So we're completing the scale and series of words. So panicky, how panicky am I feeling? So look, options: not at all, a little, moderately, quite a lot, extremely. Well, I'm a little bit nervous because I want to give this a good presentation for you lot. I want it to make it interesting. I want to make what might be seen as quite a dull topic quite interesting. So I've done lots of work for this. It's got to be quite good. So I'm sort of a little bit nervous, but am I a little bit nervous or moderately nervous? Not sure whether I'm in the middle between moderately or little bit. I'm umming and ahhing, so I'm going to plump for a little. And what we've got there is a little bit of a negotiation, but as someone will have, between picking the right numbers, just to highlight that this is not an absolute science. So lively, we could do the same thing. I'm quite lively. Confused, not, well, I don't think I am. You might well be. That's a different story altogether. Worn out, not at all. Depressed, and so on. Can you go through the rest of the questionnaire in that fashion, and we'll see what the scores are in a moment. So we've completed the questionnaire, and what we've got to look at now is just how it's all calculated. We're going to click one of these options around sets of norms, which is going to be compared with preparing for a presentation, preparing for an exam, sales pitch, preparing for sports competition, not feeling my normal self, general interest, and wanting to help with research. For this one, we'll put wanting to help with research. And then we will submit. And then we've got a set of scores. Now, on the left-hand side, we've got the factors: tension, which has given me a score of 2, depression score of 0, anger 0, vigour 12, fatigue 0, and confusion 0. And if we scroll down a little bit, what we've got now are the average scores, and these are compared to a population, so what do most people feel. So I'm below average on tension, average would be 50, below average on depression, again 50, below average on anger, 50. See, the vigour score being 12, but high vigour is quite normal, so that's now 60. Now, a score from 50 to 60 is what most people have, and 40 to 50 is also what most people have. So 50 is the average, 40 to 60 is the normal score. So I'm slightly above average for vigour, low score for fatigue, just on the board, and then low score for confusion. So what we've got there very nicely is a graph on the right hand side showing where we've got tension, depression, anger quite low, vigour a bit much higher, fatigue quite low, and confusion quite low. So that's our scores, our starting point to interpreting our mood today.